IN-SPIRE's dataset editor is where you go to create new datasets and import or open existing datasets. And today I'd like to show you how you would create a new dataset from a folder full of text files. So I have a folder here that has text files in it, and the first thing you want to do is get a feel for your data, so just kind of open up a few of the documents. And what you're looking for is to see if there are any delimiters, any text that is the same in all of the documents that you might be able to make into categorical fields. You know, the first one you might look for is a title. And so you can see this one has title and a colon and then the title. And here's a story by colon space, which shows who the author of the article is, and then a date published to web with a date. So those are all things that we might be able to use to pull these into separate fields, and then the body of the article. So let's just randomly pick another one and see if it has the same structure. So there's title colon and the title, date published to web, and there's a date. So this one doesn't have a story by, but it does have a title and a date. So that should work too. So what we want to do is we want to move this folder into our sources folder. So you need to know where your IN-SPIRE is installed. It's probably installed in your Documents and Settings folder. So here's my user folder, and you can see here's the IN-SPIRE folder. And if this is something you're going to do a lot, what you might want to do is right-click on this and choose Create Shortcut, and then just drag that to your desktop. That'll help you get back here quickly. So inside IN-SPIRE is dataset root, and in dataset root is a folder called sources. So take your folder full of documents and put it in the sources folder, and you can close that. So now back in the dataset editor, when you hit new, the type of dataset we're going to open is a text file dataset. Next. Now we can give this dataset a name, otherwise it just uses the current date. I'm going to call this one Alderwood because that's the topic of the files that I have from here. And then we need to add the files to this list, so we can do add from folder since they're all in the same folder. If we wanted to pick specific ones, we could just do add. Both bring up an open save dialog window that defaults to that sources directory. So here's my directory, and I'm going to click add folder, and you can see here is the list of files that I've chosen. If you have one big text file that has delimiters inside the text file, like maybe a doc tag or something, then you would put what that is here. But we have one document per source file, so each document is in its own file, so we're going to check that box. Now, you could just hit finish and be done, but we would miss out on getting things like titles and dates. And since we know those are in there, we're going to hit the add button. And what this will do is bring up the first document in the list. And so we can see here, here's the title. So what I want to do is, right here in the preview, I want to highlight the text that I want IN-SPIRE to look for in each of my documents. And so in this case it's title and a colon, and I'm going to right click on that. And you get an option here that you can set the field name and the delimiter. Let's go ahead and choose this and I'll just show you what I mean. So now it pre-fills up here the field name and the delimiter. So the delimiter is just the text that IN-SPIRE is going to look for to find this information. And then it's going to go to the end of that line and it'll stop. So anything between title colon and the end of that line will become the title of this document. And so now in field type here, this is a title field, and that's a special field in IN-SPIRE so that the title will show up in the document viewer. Another option you can choose here is including computation. The computation just means should IN-SPIRE use these words in figuring out what the clusters should be and what the labels on the clusters and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you'll have documents that have a separate title field and then the title will be repeated in the document, so in that case you wouldn't need to. But here, this is the only place our title is, so we're going to include that in the computation. Now you can hit done if you're just going to do this one, but we're going to go do story by and the date. So I'm going to hit new, and that saves that first one. Actually, if I slide this out of the way, you'll see that it's back there. And sets us up for making a new one. So let's do story by. So I'm going to highlight story by colon and the space. And I'm going to set field name and delimiter. And in this case, you can make it nicer looking if you want to. This is going to show up as a group folder. You'll see in just a second. So we could call it story by, or we could say author. Okay, and this is a regular field. And in this case, we don't really want to include it in the computation because the contents are always just going to be names. And so we don't really need those names to be cluster labels. So we can uncheck that. But we do want it to show up as separate groups, and so we're going to make this a categorical field. Now when you choose categorical field, IN-SPIRE needs to know what kind of field it is. Some text documents you might have, say, country and then a list of comma-separated countries, and in that case you would do comma-delimited or semicolon-delimited. But in this case it's just a single text value, so we'll leave it like that. So we'll hit New to get to the date. So now we'll do date published to web, right click. In this case we might just use it as the delimiter and make the field name date. And this is a date time field, and that brings up the options of what is the format of this date, and you can see there are lots of choices here. You can either choose that, or you can just leave it at automatic, and IN-SPIRE is pretty good at figuring out what that is. We don't need dates included in the computation, and it ends at the end of that line. So we're done with the three kinds of things that we can pull out of these documents and make structured information. So I'm going to click Done here. And you can see here it shows us the fields that we just added, and title gets an asterisk because it's the special title field. And then since the body, the main content of our documents didn't have a delimiter, then we're going to leave this box checked that says use the body field. So basically everything after whatever you put up in here, use everything after that for computation, and that's what we want. There are other options here, stop words and stop majors and phrases, and you don't need to worry about that stuff right now. So just click Finish, and your dataset will show up at the top of your dataset editor. And then over here on status, you can keep track of that, and when it changes to available, then your documents are ready to look at. You can see we have 230 documents, so we'll click on it and choose Open. So here are our 230 documents and how they are laid out in the Galaxy. And we can make selections of these documents, and we can see them in the document viewer, and here are all the titles that we specified, and then the article, the body of the document. If we go up to the main toolbar and we click on the groups icon, we can see here's that author field that we made. It's now a folder, and it shows all of the authors of these documents, the story by field. And now from the toolbar, if I choose the time tool, the time slicer shows up. Here, let me bring the Galaxy forward here. And now you can see all of the documents across time. And then that will select all the documents whose date was in September. So if I look at the document viewer here, you can see here's September 20th, September 27th, September 23rd. So that's how you bring a collection of text documents into IN-SPIRE, and if you can, it's highly recommended to go through the extra effort there to bring in the structured bits like the title and the date if you have them.